Our next presenter is a director of NSW project, Crown Agents Limited. He will present the status of the Philippine National Single Window. His experience stretches from system development to project management roles in the implementation of enterprise solutions within government agencies in many parts of the world. Most recently, he has been working at both regional sales director and project director levels, directing company operations in the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Can you all please welcome Mr. Tony Tissington? Can you all give him a round of applause?
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. It's actually even more of a pleasure for me to be able to tell you a story about the National Single Window. The government National Single Window, which is a truly success story for all of the agencies that have been involved in this interagency program. I say successful is not just judged as successful by the Philippines, it's also judged as successful by USA consultants that have come here and visited us, World Bank consultants that have come and visited the project, EU, the European Commission, has visited the project, ADB consultants visited the project, and importantly, ASEAN, who visited the project many times and presented it to them, and they truly think this is a successful project. So it's congratulations for everybody that's involved in this. So I think this is a true pleasure, as I said, to present to you the status of the Philippine National Single Window. What we'll do today is, please, we'll just go through these areas so that you can get a full idea of the description of the single window. I'm sure most of you are aware of this, maybe not so much as I'll go through now. We're going to tell you about the implementation status of the single window. We're going to tell you about the phase 1, phase 2, and the status of all of those phases. Next, please. We just tell you about the description of the single window, as you may or may not know. The single window is a trade facilitation initiative, one from ASEAN. ASEAN, Philippines is part of an ASEAN agreement, I'll show you to you here. This was made in December 2005, signed by all of the 10 main member countries. And it was to achieve the implementation of single windows in all of the 10 countries. How that will be done is to implement, each country have a single window of its own. The success of the single window will be measured ultimately by reducing the time it takes for importers and exporters to do business with government. Next, please. After signing the ASEAN agreement, an executive order was produced, EO 842. This was again done in 2005. And there's some, I have it here, this is some extracts from exactly from the executive order. Whereas the electronic process of trade documents through a single window will bring about more efficient and effective service to the public. Whereas in April 2005, the Philippines volunteered to be the pilot country for the implementation of a national single window. Whereas the national single window is a system that enables a single submission of data and information resulting in a single point of decision for the cargo, release of cargoes by customs based on decisions made by other departments and agencies. Next, please. So, 2005. This was the time when the ASEAN agreement was signed, the executive order was published and released, and it was a time where the Philippines had a the single window. Had a plan, but didn't have the money. So 2005, they were looking for funding. The government were looking for funding. They were looking for funding for a national single window, a complete national single window. They didn't want parts, they were looking for funding for everything, as defined by the likes of the UN, ASEAN, World Customs Organization, and APEC. They couldn't get the money in 2005. They tried, and there were various funding sources that were coming and offering assistance. But time was moving on, so they couldn't get the money for the whole system, so they decided, okay, well, we'll go and do a partial implementation. Partial is the major aspects, what we're calling phase one. Phase one of the system, they had to do this so that they would fulfill their commitments to ASEAN. In 2009, see 4 years already, phase one was signed. A contract was signed in phase one in October 2009. The commitment from the Philippine government to ASEAN was that they would have a single window in place by the end of 2009. They just signed in October of 2009. The first 10 agencies were implemented in December 2009. They were in January 2010. The Philippines were happy to report to the ASEAN community that we did actually have a single window. By the end of October 2010, that was when the system was completely implemented. So when you hear about single window, and I know a lot of you are actually users of the single window, but if you haven't used a single window, it is live as well and operating since October 2010. Now remember, we just said that way back in 2005 there wasn't enough money to do the complete single window program. They did, however, have enough money to do what they're calling phase one, or what we call phase one now. Phase one's complete. We're looking forward to phase two now. There is money available for phase two, and I'll go on to tell you a few more details about that in a second. So let me tell you what phase one is about. Phase one is about it processes applications for permits, licenses, and clearances for all traders for imports and exports. It allows stakeholders to transact with government through single internet window. This is very much in line with all the presentations that we've seen so far today, isn't it? Government agencies are linked, and government agencies and traders are linked via the internet through PCs or through mobile devices. I can give you the link now. You have a mobile device, you can link into the National Single Window System right now. Yes. Next. The trading community, and I can tell you there's around about 18,000 traders that are already registered with the system, can use any laptop or mobile device that linked to the system to apply for permits or licenses or clearances for imports or exports to the country. A certain percentage of customs imports and exports do actually need special permits. Percentage-wise, probably 25% of the middle would need these sort of documentation. Before the traders would actually go to each department, maybe if you're importing meat, you might need to go to National Meat Inspection to get a clearance. You might need to go to animal industry to get a clearance. You might need to go to a few different agencies to get clearances. Before NSW, the trader would have to go to each one, get a clearance, or a permit, or a license, collect them all together. You would not be able to import anything unless they had that clearances, and therefore customs would never allow that to happen. Now, that might take a few days, it might take a few weeks. I'll show you some stats in a minute. Now all they do is they can log into the system. The system comes up with the application application forms. The system will actually tell you what you have to do, train you what you have to do. You can fill in the form, it will be sent to the appropriate agency, and then the agency will process those transactions. They can review it, they can, sometimes there's a cost involved to apply for the application. That's standard with some agencies. There's approval, and then it will be tagged as a certificate that you will now have a valid permit or clearance or license. That's all done now in very short order, so nobody has to go to the agencies anymore. How many agencies do we have? We have 30 agencies already online. That was 10 in December of 2009, the rest by 2010. There's 30 agencies that are online with NSW. There are 79 types of application forms that are being processed by the system. It actually has, that's a large number, of course, and it has to actually come down from about 150 plus. So we're down to 79, hopefully in the future that will be reduced too in terms of simplification of data. All agencies now are moving towards only accepting electronic applications. No longer are they accepting people coming and requesting over-the-counter licenses. So people are no longer, they're being deterred from going to the offices now. Out of 30 agencies, there's another 10 agencies, making 40 in total, that actually use what is called an interagency portal. They're connected in terms of, for example, if PMP would like to find out what is being imported in terms of fertilizer or pesticides, some countries they make explosives out of that. The PMP can interrogate with the FDA database and find out what importations are happening. So there's 40 agencies in total that are connected to the system. How well is it doing? Well, there's 2,400 plus transactions that go through the system every day. Up to date, we've had over 900,000 transactions being processed. These are all for importations or exportations, for clearances, licenses, and permits. Okay. I'll tell you a little bit before we go through this slide what happens. So I mentioned to you that the trader would actually log into the system. He would get us a national single window screen up. He would ask the system what he needs to do in order to import or export some goods. The system will then bring up the necessary forms and tell him what departments or agencies he has to go through. He will fill those forms in and send it into the system. The system will then determine where it's got to go to. So it will send it to an agency.